This is WLOX Law Call.
And welcome back to Law Call on this chilly Saturday evening. So happy to have you wherever you are. Hope you're warm and toasty and watching tonight's show. Our topic is serious car accidents, automobile. We're doing anything from fender benders all the way up the scale, as serious as it gets with that. And Matthew, if you're ready, we're going to get to our phone line. I believe Tina,
let's do it,
from Laurel has been patiently waiting. Tina, thank you for your patience. What can we help you with tonight?
Yes, I had called to. My son was killed in a automobile accident. It'll be April, will be 2 years.
Okay.
And we've been trying to get something done for him. His daughter and his girlfriend was in the car. The guy ran the stop sign and ran into my son. She was driving the truck, ran into him and killed him. We have some witnesses said that they saw the guy run the stop sign. The officers at the scene didn't do a blood test. They did a sobriety test. They didn't do drug tests, anything like that. And they told us that there's nothing can be done. We fought the district attorney because it was an accident, and he was basically running a stop sign, and nothing can be done.
Tina.
And we have tried. The guy didn't have any insurance, of course.
Right.
And since then, the guy has been in jail, killed a guy, and so that's going on here in Laurel too. But they have told us with the accident report that he was speeding through the stop sign. But I have talked to several lawyers, and they said that it would be just a misdemeanor, and that's why the district attorney could not do anything.
Tina, let's turn this one over to Matthew. There is a little bit to unpack here, but right off the bat, thank you for the call.
Yeah, I'm so terribly sorry, Tina.
That's tough business.
That is horrendous. That's very difficult. Well, yeah, there's a lot here. Let's first talk about kind of the sobriety issues and the drug testing things. So what you have is a horrible accident. A guy, blew through a stop sign, right? So the police, before they can give someone a field sobriety test, before they can take a blood draw, they have to have probable cause that they were impaired, all right?
Okay.
That's the decision that the officers make at the scene. Now, based upon the seriousness of the accident, they should give that a very hard look, right? They should be very aware of it. It's just hard for me to interpret, what they saw, what they encountered when they got at the scene. But if they have any thought or any concern that that's at play,
right,
then they can do at the scene. If the other driver is incapacitated, they frequently do a blood draw, and that requires a municipal judge to sign a warrant. But that's done all the time, very standard stuff. Now, however, at this point, with it being 2 years ago, there's nothing they can do with that.
Right,
nothing they can do about that. So that ship is, quite frankly, unfortunately, sailed.
Right.
So there's that. Now, it's just hard to say, yes, running a stop sign in and of itself is a misdemeanor, but with the serious accident with your son, passing, and the other witnesses, there are some options there. So it's interesting to me what's going to go on behind the scenes, Kenny, why they only kind of want to proceed in that manner.
Right.
There's negligent homicide. There's some things like that.
Sure.
But once again, I don't have enough
reckless
facts.
driving at the very least.
For sure. So there's some options here. It's just hard to say kind of what's going on. I certainly am very sorry for her. Now, as we kind of touched upon, there would be uninsured motorist coverage on her son's vehicle.
Okay.
There could be stacking some vehicles, the girlfriend. So there could be some avenues for at least some recovery. Never going to replace your son.
No.
Not going to ever kind of replace that. I get it. But there may be some avenue for some basic recovery. Happy to talk to her about that. But that's, she was really kind of looking at this more of a criminal matter, and
yes,
I get it, trying to get some justice. Unfortunately, it kind of, I don't know what can be done kind of at this point.
Right.
Now, they probably can enhance the charges if it hasn't been adjudicated already. But as far as the field sobriety test, blood test, there's nothing that can be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, let's stay on the money side for just a little bit here.
Yep.
And you were talking about the uninsured motorists. So going with what Tina said, and Tina, you did a great job summarizing that call.
She did.
Really
she
good.
Did.
I don't know if you had it written down or what, but you did great.
Yeah.
if the other driver didn't have any insurance or was underinsured, so that limits your options there. But that uninsured motorist we were just talking about, that really could be the difference maker.
Well, it could be, and to everyone that really had a license in that car could be a possible. They have insurance that could possibly come into effect. Your son's insurance obviously could come into effect here. The girlfriend that was in the car, if she had a separate policy, that could come into effect. So anybody in that vehicle that was a licensed driver should usually have access to some insurance, and that could be looked at in that case for some recovery. So I'm happy to talk to you about that if no one has looked at that, but that's certainly I'd want to look at that.
Matt, let me ask you this one. This is a little out of the. I know in Alabama that if you have more than one car, you can stack your uninsured motorists. So like if you have 2 cars, does that count in Mississippi? I don't know.
Absolutely. You're going to a little deep dive here.
Well,
I'm so glad you've been listening over all these years, but absolutely. Mississippi is a stacking state, so what that means is for each vehicle you have insured, you can add the coverages one on top of the other.
Okay.
So if you have 3 cars with $25,50, you can add the $25,000, $25,000, and $25,000, $75,000. So that's something we would look at. We stack all the time. It's one of the few areas in Mississippi that we're
ahead of the curve.
Ahead of the curve instead of way back on the curve. So definitely want to look at stacking. And also look at road conditions, things like that. Was there anything going on with that stop sign? Was it obscure? We look at kind of all those things.
Right.
Crash worthiness, Kenny. Let's not forget about that.
Okay.
Right. I don't know what kind of car was your son in. Did it act the way it's supposed to when it was, with that impact? And so we look at all those things. It's not just what happened then, but also the products involved, did the seat belts, the airbags, did everything kind of work they were supposed to? So we look at all that as everyone should when they look at those kind of cases.
Tina, as you can tell, Matt does this all the time. They have a whole team on standby for these type of things. Just one last thing before we dip into break on that one. You said almost 2 years. I'm going to say the clock is ticking on this.
Kenny.
Yeah,
always is.
Please, I'm going to have contact information for Matt and Jim at the end of the show. Please write it down. Hang on with us, and we'll get you taken care of on that one before the end of the show. Please give them a call if you can on Monday or Tuesday of this week. And thanks again for the call from Laurel. Tough stuff right there. All right.